What's up, everybody? Dave Burke and myself we're in the studio here at First Star Logistics. We're between podcasts. We had a little bit of time, so we thought, what the heck? Let's reach out and do a little live stream, talk to the fans, see what the fans have to say and what they think about Super Bowl 56 coming up Sunday, the 13th of February, day before Valentine's Day. Bengals could be National Football League champions. Mike Brown could step at that podium and pick up the Lamar Hunt Trophy. And what a day that would be for Mike Brown, 86 years old, to experience that kind of a joy. It's amazing. Plus, it would be a scenario where Mike Brown could say, this was mine. I did it all on my own. Paul Brown, obviously, his legendary father, legendary figure in the National Football League, was involved in the first two Super Bowls as still part of the organization, Super Bowl 16 and Super Bowl 23. But Super Bowl 56 would be Mike Brown, and then his children and his grandchildren part of that Super Bowl. So, man, it would be going from generation to generation. The great-grandfather, Paul Brown, involved in the first two Super Bowls, and then his great-granddaughters involved in the Super Bowl 40 years later. And hopefully that third Super Bowl is a winning Super Bowl. That would be sweet. Well, we've already got some folks jumping on board here, Dave.
We got someone from Sweden.
Sweden. That's one of my home countries. I'm Swedish and English. So how about it? Let's do a little Sweden.
So let's go to the, we got, okay, excitement hasn't worn off. What do you expect to see at right guard, Dave? Will Carmen rotate in again? That's Klausa 7.
Yeah, I think we are going to see that. But Jackson Carman has not practiced the last couple of days. He has not participated whatsoever. His back is stiffened up on him. He had back surgery. He had a back problem when he was in college, had back surgery to remedy that issue. But something's acting up on him again, and he's got some stiffness in his back. So he has been just out there in sweatpants, just observing everything, taking the mental reps. He's not been able to participate. Now, that doesn't mean he can't play in the Super Bowl. They probably just don't want to push it this week, give him some time for it to calm down and not exacerbate that injury any further. Just let it calm down totally, go through some treatment, some stretching, some rehabilitation on it, and then next week, see where it is. Go through practice next week and see if he can participate. If he's physically able to, I think they do play both of them. I think Frank Pollock feels like they both deserve to play at this point in time. I think that Hakeem Adeniji opened the door a little bit for Jackson Carman to take advantage of, and I think that Jackson Carman is trying to do that exact thing. But again, a back injury is not a good injury for a football player. It's not a good injury for anybody. But if your back is bothering you, I don't care what position you play in football. It's not the game to be having any kind of an injury to your back. That's for sure. It's tough to play.
We want to remind everybody to pay attention to Dave Lapham in the Trenches, because one of our guests, Frank Pollock, has a lot to say about this Bengals offensive line for
absolutely
this season and going into the Super Bowl and so forth. So,
and I think Frank Pollock has done a tremendous job bringing that offensive line along. And Frank Pollock knows of what he speaks. He played in the Super Bowl with a guy named Joe Montana when Frank Pollock was with the 49ers. So
he talks about our Joe, Joe Burrow.
In some comparisons, I asked him, what do you think? The two Joes, besides their first name being the same, what other kind of characteristic similarities do they have? He's got some good answers to that. That's worth a listen. I can tell you that.
Andrew West says, "Hi, Lap. I'm still waiting for the pumpkin to show up. Is this really happening?"
Andrew, it's really happening. There's no question about it. But the Cincinnati Bengals, they do have their work cut out for them, and it's happening against the Rams. How about this I was doing a little research. How about this for a number that's pretty interesting about this Rams defense? The Rams defensive football team, they were tied for third in interceptions with 19 on the season, the regular season. And they were third in the NFL with 50 quarterback sacks. And they also gave up just 17 touchdown passes, second in the NFL. The only team in the NFL that are in the top 3 in interceptions and sacks, throw in second fewest touchdown passes allowed. Oh, so it tells you that this defense is built on pass rush up front, pressure up front. They have Aaron Donald at defensive tackle, Von Miller at defensive end. Aaron Donald will probably, when he's done playing, be the all-time sack leader as a defensive tackle. They list him as a defensive end in their defensive scheme, but he's an interior pass rusher. And Von Miller right now has got the most sacks of any active player in the National Football League. So you got those guys creating pressure, and you have Jalen Ramsey type guy in the back end. That's why they're tied for third in quarterbacks in interceptions, third in quarterback sacks, and second fewest touchdown passes allowed. There's only one other team in the NFL that allowed fewer than 20 touchdown passes on the season. The Buffalo Bills only allowed 12 touchdown passes the entire season. How about that defense? But Kansas City took them apart. Couldn't take the Bengals apart, particularly in the second half. Bengals slammed the door. 3 points, only 50 yards passing from Mahomes, and no yards receiving for Tyreek Hill. Oh, what? It was amazing.
All right, we're going to kind of combine a couple here, Dave. Randy Byers, always great to see Randy in the live streams.
Yes.
Basically, are you optimistic we'll see CJ play
CJ Uzomah a few snaps?
Hold on 1 second. We also have our friend in Sweden asking about, always this year, Thaddeus Moss has gotten a lot of attention. And then also
Thaddeus Moss is still on injury reserve, so that's not going to be an issue.
And then another question also as far as what's the word on CJ Uzomah?
CJ Uzomah did not practice this week. CJ Uzomah was on the side field rehabilitating on the exercise bike. Good sign, riding the exercise bike. So the injury is not as severe as they initially thought it might be when he first had to be carted off the field, basically. It's not that extensive. He's got an MCL sprain. Now there's first, second, third degree tear. So you're basically tearing fibers, but how much of it is torn? And that's the issue right now. So he's going through rehabilitation, strengthening it. Not going to practice at all this week, obviously. Next week, take a look and see. Almost like Jackson Carman. I mean, it's like they're going to be very careful with him this week. Next week, though, at some point in time next week, they're going to have to see what he can and can't do. So CJ Uzomah, what he provides you is the Swiss Army knife. If CJ Uzomah is on the football field and they put a sub package in there to cover him, smaller person, defensive back, put him at the end of the line of scrimmage, muscle up, put on your big boy pads, run the football. They don't have that many linebackers on the field. They have more defensive backs. They have 5 or 6 defensive backs out there. Run it down their throat. If they stay base defense, keep linebackers out there, detach CJ Uzomah. You have a linebacker on him in coverage in space, mismatch. CJ Uzomah gives you that automatic mismatch. Problem is they're going to have to decide how limited is CJ Uzomah. Is a 70% CJ Uzomah going to be as much of a mismatch as 100% CJ Uzomah would be? Obviously not. But how much can CJ Uzomah give you? And the other thing is, if he does play in the football game and he's got that kind of an injury, one problem move in a pile or anything else, and it can exacerbate that problem. So even though he plays in the beginning of the Super Bowl, may not play the entire Super Bowl. So you have to have a plan B and a plan C, just like you do at every position group. And that's Drew Sample. And, Drew Sample's going to have to step up and make plays. And also, they may go with more multiple wide receiver sets. Mitchell Wilcox is another option at the tight end position. He played more snaps in the AFC Championship game than he has in any game, because they went 2 tight ends quite a bit on first down in that football game. They wanted to establish a running game in the early downs in that football game. So you got Mitchell Wilcox, you got Drew Sample, you got more wide receivers, and CJ Uzomah is not ruled out at this point. If there was a game on Sunday, he came out on the injury report this week as questionable, which is better than doubtful. Doubtful, you're in trouble for the football game. Questionable, it's 50-50. So he's 50-50 if they were to play a game Sunday before the Super Bowl. Super Bowl Sunday, a whole week later, he may be in a much better scenario than that. We shall see. It's all going to be how quickly he recovers. Everybody heals at different rates. Some guys are fast healers. Some guys aren't so fast. We're going to see how fast a healer CJ Uzomah is on this injury.
Dan, the man, asking, if you guys would have won the Super Bowl, would you carried Forrest Gregg off on your shoulders? And do you think these guys should do that for Zach? Has the carry the shoulders thing become more of the Gatorade bath in today's world?
Yeah, I guess. And I think we definitely would have. Forrest Gregg was carried off the football field. I think it was Jimmy LeClaire and Glenn Cameron. I think those were the two guys that picked Forrest Gregg up after we won the AFC Championship game and carried him off the football field. We were on the football field when the game ended offensively, but I do think there's a possibility. There's a possibility they carry Zach Taylor off the football field. There's a very good possibility he's going to take a bath. That's the norm now. But they will be. You got to remember, this is the Super Bowl. You have to go out. There's presentations. They're setting up stages. They're doing all that sort of thing. This is the final act as such. So Zach Taylor, he probably won't want to go on national television looking like a wet rat after being drowned by Gatorade or water or whatever the case may be. But he'll probably happily do it because that means that they are Super Bowl 56 champions and they're taking the Lamar Hunt Trophy back to Cincinnati.
No, they already brought that one home.
What's that?
They're bringing home the Lombardi.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They brought the Lamar Hunt Trophy. They're bringing the Lombardi Trophy home. That's right.
Dave, back this summer, we went down and spent a good over an hour with Mike Brown.
Yeah.
We had a chance, when you go in and you see the previous AFC championship trophies.
Right.
I mean, imagine having
Lombardi
trophy sitting there.
It's bigger. It's better. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that would be a centerpiece. It would be in the lobby as first thing that people would see when they walk in that lobby and go to the receptionist would be the Lombardi Trophy, symbolic of the championship of Super Bowl 56. That would be huge.
You've been in Cincinnati. You saw 75 Reds, 76 Reds, 90 Reds. What would a celebration for a Super Bowl champion Bengals team be like?
Well, like I've said, the Super Bowl that we played in the 80s, 81, Super Bowl 16 and 81, Super Bowl 23 in 88 and 89 season, fans were beside themselves, off the hook, but there was no social media. It's gone. The fan interaction between player and fan is so much different than it was back then in the 80s and the 70s with the Big Red Machine. The 90s, it was still too early, 1990. So now it would be crazy. I mean, the Cincinnati area, the whole tri-state area would go absolutely bonkers. It would be just historic, off the charts. I remember we had rallies after both Super Bowls at Fountain Square when we came back without a Lombardi Trophy, without the big prize, and the place was packed. People were hanging out of the windows in the buildings around the crew, from the Crew Tower and others around Fountain Square. Just couldn't get enough. I mean, fans were everywhere. I cannot imagine what it would be like. I mean, all of downtown for blocks would probably be wall-to-wall people who couldn't even get a stitch of traffic through there, I would imagine, if there were some sort of a greeting for the Super Bowl champion Cincinnati Bengals of Super Bowl 56. That would be crazy.
Dave Lennox asked, and we've talked about this, Dave, who do you think will be the unsung hero of Super Bowl 56?
Yeah, there's always somebody that crops up. I mean, like we talked about, a few times here now. Look at Trent Taylor in the AFC Championship game, the 2-point conversion that he made. Huge. One play, one snap offensively, and it was a massive snap. B.J. Hill, interception where he tips the ball to himself, makes the interception on the screen pass that Mahomes is trying to execute. One of the big reasons it happened his teammate, Trey Hendrickson, dropped off zone blitz and dialed it up. Lou Anarumo dialed it up. Hendrickson drops off. I think it was Von Bell blitzed. Hill tips it to himself. Interception on the screen pass that Mahomes was going to check it down to. You never know who's going to step up and be the unsung hero. I don't know. I mean, once you make the Super Bowl, you're all heroes as such, but somebody is going to make a play, whether it be on special teams or defense, or, if CJ Uzama is limited, what if it's Drew Sample or Wilcox at the tight end position? I mean, who knows who it's going to be? Could it be Samaje Perine? Samaje Perine had the 41-yard reception for a touchdown in the AFC Championship game that, made it a 21-10 football game right before the half and gave the Bengals a chance to mount a comeback. It could be a bunch of people.
David G's putting his prediction in. Eli Apple's going to get a pick 6.
That would be big. That'd be
huge.
That would be big.
Randy Byers is asking about, he's still hoping to go to LA. Where is Radio Row for the Super Bowl? That's a good question because California is still under a lot of protocols. They're
doing
COVID.
Radio Row though. That is happening, and you have to find the NFL Media Hotel. That information will all be out there. They are going to do Radio Row, but when you go out there, make sure you bring your mask because you're going to have to be masked everywhere.
And vaccination, you have to have the vax proof and all that stuff.
Vax proof to get into the game, to get into the hotel. You probably will to be able to get into the NFL media area for sure. You need to bring your vaccination card with you or take a picture of it on your cell phone. It would almost probably be better to bring your vaccination card with you. It would probably be,
smart.
There's no way that could be fudged. I mean, that's the real deal. Sometimes people don't believe pictures as such.
Richard says the Rams seem like a passing team, much like the Chiefs. Can we expect to slow them down by playing the same type of defense as we did in the second half in KC?
Oh, I think that they're going to mix it in. I don't think they're going to do exactly what they did, start the football game off in that defensive configuration necessarily. But they'll do it. They're going to mix it in. There's no question about it. It was so successful that why wouldn't you? And they're obviously they didn't empty the bucket on every single wrinkle and nuance they've got to that defensive configuration as well. So Lou Anarumo, who we're going to be doing a podcast with during Super Bowl week here, as well as we try to fill you in with as much information as we possibly can. We're going to be talking with quite a few Bengal coaches and Bengal stars, alums like Kenny Anderson, get their opinion on the football game. Lou Anarumo, Brian Callahan. We've got a few that we're going to be checking out. Mark Duffner has already been posted. We caught his opinions about Super Bowl. So, I mean, Lou Anarumo, the mad scientist, he'll be in his lab and he'll be putting together some raw materials to come up with a heck of a game plan. And I'm sure that 3-man front, 4-man front, Sam Hubbard as kind of the spy. Logan Wilson was a spy. I'm not sure you have to spy Stafford. I don't think they'll go that route with it, but they'll have Sam Hubbard playing some linebacker, Sam Hubbard playing at a defensive end position, and Sam Hubbard maybe blitzing from the linebacker position or walking up from the linebacker position to an A-gap and blitzing. I mean, there's a bunch of things that the Bengals can do. They can zone blitz in different ways with Sam Hubbard. That position versatility, that athletic versatility that Sam Hubbard gives you and others give you, they've got multiple defensive backs that can blitz. I mean, Bell is a good blitzer. Hilton's a good blitzer. Another guy that has had unbelievable playoffs to this point, 3 playoff games. Jesse Bates has made big plays in every single playoff game. Jesse Bates does a great job when they're doing all these blitzing. You have to have somebody in center field that is going to be able to keep his eyes on the quarterback's eyes and make plays on the football. And Jesse Bates is doing that. He's been big time back there for Lou Anarumo in the center field safety spot.
Yeah, TJ Wright says basically he thinks the defense wins the game. We've always said it. It's always been the kind of the saying, defense wins championships.
Right.
But he also says maybe a special teams touchdown. We just we're going to have Darren Simmons on as well.
Yeah,
Bengals coaches. So and we kind of I'm sure that'll be discussed.
Well, there's I did some research on special team scores because Stanford Jennings had one in Super Bowl 23. In fact, Stanford Jennings' kickoff return touchdown gave the Bengals the only lead we've ever had in a Super Bowl. In Super Bowl 16, we played from behind the whole football game, never took a lead. In Super Bowl 23, they played from behind until Stanford Jennings gave the Bengals the lead with his touchdown return of 93 yards, I think it was, for a touchdown. He's one of 10, from what I could determine, what I could count up. There are 10 kickoff return touchdowns in Super Bowl history. I couldn't find a punt return touchdown in Super Bowl history. So what about Trent Taylor takes one back to the house for the Bengals? Special team score, defensive score, like we talked, like one of you mentioned, Apple or Bates or Bell or Logan Wilson, pick six, Pratt. I mean, there's all kinds of candidates for a potential pick six. Why not? Some kind of unscripted, unconventional score would be massive in the Super Bowl. There are no two ways about that.
Dan the Man says Bengals were 4-2 versus playoff teams, 2-0 on the road. Rams were 2-5 versus playoff teams, 1-3 at home. He feels the Bengals can definitely do this.
Oh, I think so too.
I agree.
mean, the thing is, this crowd noise won't be a factor in this football game. The Rams don't have a huge fan base, to be quite honest. The Rams are having trouble drawing fans. The fan interest isn't there. And you'd think that it would swell more and more here they are in the Super Bowl, and it probably will, but there's only 12,000 seats that each team gets from a designation standpoint for use. This is a corporate game. What the NFL does for the Super Bowl, all these big corporations that have sponsored games, advertised during the entire season and through the playoffs with the National Football League, and spent millions and millions of dollars doing it, they basically give them all these tickets, and it turns into a thank you very much for your support. And it's a corporate game. These big companies are taking care of their customer base and employees and whatever the case may be. So it's not going to be a rabid, you would think, boy, in Los Angeles, home fans, it's not going to be a big advantage in terms of crowd noise for the Rams. The advantage the Rams have is they're going to be sleeping in their own beds. They don't have to travel. They're going to be practicing on the same practice field they practiced on the entire season. They don't have to worry about any logistics, don't have to do any relocation. They don't have to worry about any flights, hotel rooms for their families. I mean, they can put their families up in their house, in their friend's house, or whatever. It's a big relief because really the first week, and I went through it, your biggest headache is trying to take care of the logistics of, what do I do with my family? I got to make sure they all have flights. I got to make sure they all have hotel rooms. How are we going to get them from here to there, transportation-wise, logistics? It's unbelievable. You're all like mini travel agents, and the Rams don't have to worry about that. That is massive. Let me tell you, it's big because, there's going to be some family members that aren't happy with the situation. Some, no matter what you give them, aren't going to be happy. Others aren't going to be happy because they don't make the cut. You can't really give them anything. And for the Rams players to not have to worry about that and go through all of that process before they actually start focusing on what plays are we going to run in the football game, it's a big deal, believe me.
Yeah, I talked to Jalen Ramsey's dad. I'm good friends with him. I've known him for several years. His older son was recruited by Brian Kelly at UC, actually committed, and I've known him since then. And he was like, I'm flying out Tuesday. They live in Nashville.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm staying at the house, seeing
Yeah.
my grandkids.
I mean,
it's like a normal trip.
All it is family visit.
Yeah.
Going out to visit his family, going out to visit his son and his grandkids. And oh, by the way, the son's playing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a much different dynamic than saying, all right, well, this flight's going to be $1,500 and you're going to have to connect through here and go here. And then I don't know if we can get you in this hotel. I don't know if we can get 2 hotel rooms in the same hotel for families. We have to scatter families around all these. Telling you, man,
you're not even
it's night
playing.
and day.
You had to go through
It's
this
night and day.
because you've got 2 kids. And
everybody does.
Limitations on tickets and all
everybody,
that stuff.
everybody associated with the organization. It's when you're traveling, you're a mini travel agent because you're on your own, man.
And I know Robin and Jimmy Burrow. They're taking care of Joe. Joe's not even thinking about any of that stuff.
Right.
He's too into everything else.
Well, and also Jimmy knows how important it is for Joe not have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I mean, as a former coach, he knows to take all of that burden off of Joe Burrow is the thing to do and let Joe Burrow just focus on football. And Joe has mentioned it. Joe said, my parents do that. My parents take all those problems away from him. They do a phenomenal job. So Joe Burrow's a fortunate kid.
Yeah. Andrew West says, is there any advantage for us considering Zach's in-depth knowledge of McVay's system and concepts? Think Zach and Lou are spending a little extra time together this week.
Well, I think that McVay knows what Zach's system is because it's an offshoot of his own system. So I don't think there's any real edge there. The edge that I see is that Zach Taylor has seen Sean McVay, obviously, in the role of a head coach. Zach Taylor has served on his staff. So he knows how he's preparing. He knows what he's going to do on different days. He knows how he might react as a head coach to different situations during the course of the football game. He knows all of that. He experienced it firsthand as an assistant on his staff. All Zach knows, all Sean McVay knows of Zach Taylor is Zach Taylor as assistant wide receiver coach and then quarterback coach. He does not know Zach Taylor, how he responds and reacts as a head coach, like his staff knows Zach Taylor. So I think Zach gets an edge there because he has seen Sean McVay, how he handled himself in a Super Bowl as a head coach. Sean McVay has no idea what Zach Taylor, he may have some idea, but he has not seen Zach Taylor in a Super Bowl as a head coach like Zach Taylor has seen Sean McVay. So I think that's where the edge is in terms of play and schematic. I mean, the schematic is very, very similar. And you get a lot of that off of tape. But I do think the edge that Zach might have is, as he's thinking, I know that this is what Sean's thinking right now. And I think I'm going to do this because this is what I know Sean McVay thinks, the way he thinks as a head coach in this very situation. I've been there with him, and I remember it. And Zach Taylor keeps a log. He keeps a all handwritten log, a football diary, and it's very extensive. So I'm sure he's going back to his Los Angeles Rams days as an assistant coach and checking out that diary, that football diary as such.
So we've talked about the odds they re-sign Jesse Bates. We think it's just a foregone conclusion, especially the success this team's had. Why would Jesse Bates want to go anywhere else? And then you get into the dynamics of
it's money. I mean,
it's money.
It's all money. Yeah, Jesse would go somewhere else for more dollars. And what's going to happen is Jesse, quite honestly, and self-admittedly, put too much pressure on himself during the regular season. He didn't have the regular season that he was hopeful of having. He felt some pressure. He let it affect him negatively, the fact that he wasn't under contract. But you make the playoffs, and it's like, forget it now. Now's the time to just go out and play. You know, I'm going to let that burden go. I have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And now he's playing loose, relaxed, confident, and that he wasn't those three things because his mind was preoccupied by when are we going to get a deal done? What's the deal going to be? I do think a deal will get done. I'm hopeful that a deal will get done because Jesse Bates is not just a great player. He's a big-time leader of the defense and of this football team as a whole. You hear a lot of guys talking about Jesse Bates and how important he is to this football team as a leader. So you got to hope something will get done. But it boils down to dollars and cents, and that's what it always boils down to.
Houday Nation basically asking about what's wrong with the red zone offense. Something that, even though they've been winning, that's kind of been a weakness.
Yeah, in the beginning of the year, the first half of the season, they were second or third in the NFL. They were converting over 70% of the time, touchdowns 70% of the time in the red zone. They struggled a little bit offensively, but defensively, they stepped up big time. I think in the postseason, in 8 red zone opportunities, I think the opposition's only scored 3 touchdowns, and five drives have ended without a touchdown, and a couple of them have ended without points because of turnovers, takeaways. Pratt's interception comes to mind. You know, I mean, this Bengals defensive football team bends but doesn't break. And what the Bengals offensive football team has to do is when you get in the red zone, break the defense. You know, they've already bent, break them, put points on the board. I mean, third down touchdowns in the red zone are momentum builders and backbreakers. Momentum builders for an offense, backbreakers for a defense, particularly in the Super Bowl.
Andrew West basically says, how poetic is it for Big Whit to be facing the Bengals in his last game, the Super Bowl, no less?
Andrew Whitworth, 40 years old in December. Andrew Whitworth is older than both head coaches. That's crazy. You got Zach Taylor's 38 years old, Sean McVay's 36 years old, and the left tackle in the Super Bowl is 40 years old. And yeah, I mean, it's an unbelievable run for Andrew Whitworth. And like I've said before, Big Whit may not be physically what he was, a few years back, because 40 years old, you're not the same athlete you were even in your early 30s, but he is so smart and his football geometry is so good. He has changed how he approaches his sets and all that based on, his physical adaptations that he has to do. And he has got his own football geometry figured out. And sometimes when he sets, he almost takes a vertical set to intersect a defensive lineman. And you think, okay, well, he's shrinking the pocket. He's so darn strong, he still builds the Great Wall of China. Guys just don't push him back into the quarterback. Whit just retreats, sets up a wall, and when you run into it, you're done. That's the end. I mean, your journey is over. He's a special player. He's been that way for a long time.
Mr. Homegrown basically asked, Dave, I have a question. You played in the big game at one point. Joe mentioned the only thing crazy to him is the celebrities reaching out thing. Is there a chance this has an effect in his game? And he continued it. That would be the only thing I could see creeping in Joe's mind. I'm going to answer that. Having known Joe since he was a junior in high school, you don't realize this dude, how focused Joe Burrow is.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's talking about things outside of the game. He's talking about, when he goes on a podcast with Tom Brady and Jim Gray, and Jim Gray's talking about, Tom Brady saying, I respect this about Joe Burrow's game. I respect that about Joe Burrow's game. And Joe Burrow saying, I got a long way to go before I can compare myself to Tom Brady. That stuff's surreal to him. Playing in the preparation for the Super Bowl and playing in the Super Bowl is not surreal to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow expects it. Joe Burrow feels like this is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And not just this year, many years. I mean, Joe's not, there are two people that aren't surprised. The two people that are least surprised about the success of the Bengals are Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. Because, when Zach Taylor, as a head coach, when the organization drafted Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor saw exactly what Joe Burrow was in the pre-draft evaluations, man, I mean, they're exactly where they expected to be. And it's sooner than people thought, but not sooner than what their expectations were. And that's what's key. But it's the surrounding stuff, the superfluous stuff. And Joe Burrow's smart enough to stay away from it. Like Zach Taylor told the football team, I thought this was great. He gave a talk to the football team and he said, don't let 10 days, 14 days, don't start, celebrating too early with all of these activities. What we want to do is celebrate for a long period of time. You win a Super Bowl, you celebrate the rest of your life. Don't celebrate for 10 to 14 days that you made the Super Bowl. That's not the celebration. That's the work period. That's getting ready for the final game. You win the Super Bowl, you're celebrating forever. That's what we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate a legacy. You're a Super Bowl winner. There's not many of them. You celebrate that the rest of your lives. Forget about this week and a half, 2 weeks right here. This isn't the important part of it in terms of our accomplishments. Still have one more goal to get. I think that's great advice.
You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics from the First Star Logistics Studios. This is a pop-up live stream we had in between. We're going to have to jump off here real short. Dave, we'll do a couple more questions. One, Cadell Ross asked, what's up with Fred Johnson?
Fred Johnson, he's not a guy that from an evaluation standpoint that Frank Pollock feels should be active for the football game. That's simple. Fred Johnson is got plenty of physical talent. If they need Fred Johnson to play, Fred Johnson's capable of doing that. But other guys are further up the list from an evaluation standpoint than Fred Johnson. I mean, and it's plain and simple. Frank Pollock makes the call on who's active on game day. And based on what Fred Johnson's doing during the course of the week, Frank Pollock decides to deactivate him and activate other guys in his stead. It's a competition. It's a weekly competition, and you have to go out and compete not only on a weekly basis. You have to compete on a daily basis, and you have to compete on the football field, in the weight room, in the classroom, everywhere. You have to compete.
How do you feel about the impact of Trent Taylor, and what impact do you think he could have on the big game?
Yeah, I mean, Trent Taylor, obviously, we talked about it before. He made a huge play on that 2-point conversion. He was ready for it. The coaches had confidence in him. And like we talked about, we're doing a podcast with Darren Simmons. We talked about Trent Taylor was ready for the opportunity. He came off the practice squad. They were having some issues in the return game. In the San Francisco 49ers game, 2 fumbled punts, 2 muff punts that turned into possessions that the San Francisco 49ers stole. They didn't only get the ball back, they got the ball back with like 40, 45 yards of field position because the defense stops them. They punt it, you fumble it, all that distance that they kicked it, you gave it up. Those are hidden yards. It's like they didn't generate those yards against the defense. They generated it because of fumble, a miscue on special teams. So like Darren Simmons always says, what I want to see my players do is when they're done returning a kickoff or a punt, hand the ball to the official. And it got to the point where, you had return guys running to the official, handing the football to the official to make sure the official knew that they had possession of the football during the course of the season. But Trent Taylor has solidified the punt return position, and he expanded his role to the offense, made a huge play in the 2-point conversion. You got to like him. You got to like what he's doing. The bottom line is these guys kept themselves ready, and the coaches coached them to be ready. So when they got a chance in a huge game, they stepped up like it was no big deal.
Crystal Johnson's asking if there's any chance Eli Apple, Mike Hilton work out with receivers so they can catch those interceptions. DBs, the reason they're DBs usually is because they don't have the hands like a wide receiver.
Well,
but they do work on that stuff.
Oh yeah, they do. Eli Apple should have had a pick 6 in the football game. I mean, in the AFC Championship game, the ball should have been picked, and if he picked it, he probably would have scored. And the Bengals have had Jesse Bates had one during the course of the season. They've all had opportunities. In this football game, in the biggest football game, Matthew Stafford has thrown through 17 interceptions in the regular season. 17 amongst the league leaders. He fumbled the ball 5 times, lost 2 of them. 19 turnovers. One guy was responsible for 19 turnovers. Now, every interception has a story. Maybe his receiver ran a wrong route. Maybe, somebody didn't pick up a blitz whatever. Every turnover has a story. But the quarterback was responsible. His position was charted for 19 turnovers. So bottom line is he's going to give you a chance. And if he gives you a chance, he's got such a strong arm. If he says, I can get it in that little hole. Well, if you're a defensive back and he puts it in your hands, you got to make him pay. You got to finalize. Don't drop it. Don't let him off the hook, particularly in the Super Bowl. Every chance you have to catch the football, you got to catch the football.
All right, everybody, we're going to have to wrap it up. We have in like 5 minutes.
Yes.
We have another interview already scheduled. We appreciate you spending time with us in this pop-up unannounced. I can tell you we're going to do another live stream Tuesday.
Yes.
I haven't decided the time yet, but it'll be probably midday-ish.
It'll be early afternoon. If not, it'll be between 12 and 1 o'clock, somewhere in that range. Still don't know exactly how many guests or what guests they're going to be for podcasts on Tuesday, but we'll keep you posted on that. It'll probably be somewhere in that 12 to 1 o'clock range.
Thank you for being with us. We want to thank First Star Logistics again for the use of the First Star Logistics studios and everything they do for us. Until next time, hooday.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.